So we've reached a point in the Yellow Vest insurrection where this is just complete insanity at this point. Just to give you an idea, if you've been following my Twitter account, I tweet mostly in French and retweet a lot of French activists these days, but basically the gist of it is the government has had enough of us, basically, and they're deploying the army to quote unquote protect state buildings. The problem is the army, the squadron they're deploying is called Sentinel, and Sentinel is an anti-terror group, basically, which is only formed to counter terrorists. The problem is demonstrators, they're not terrorists. Hooligans, they're not terrorists. Even if the government says that the hooligans are terrorists, um, in the official text, it's precise nowhere that breaking stuff is terrorism. So the hooligans are not terrorists and they've killed no one so far. Actually, the police has, and people forget about this. Anyway, just to give you another idea, the chief of the army bureau wasn't even informed that the army was going to be deployed in Paris. He actually learned it through one of his subordinates who heard it on the radio when the spokesman for the government made his announcement. This is a very it's just insane situation for various reasons, most notably because if the last demonstration is any indication, the police presence may actually be fairly weak, which means that people are going to be extremely angry, they're going to be smash stuff with impunity like last time, and that means that by making it public that the military is going to be protecting buildings, they may very well be, and I'm pretty sure they will be, prime targets for very violent individuals who are going to go to them and they're going to try to fight them. Now, the army, they're not stupid. Well, most of them aren't stupid anyway. I do have a lot of respect for the military. My father is an ex-military. I know that vast majority of them are not stupid. They're far less idiotic than the cops, at least. And I highly doubt that they will open fire on the demonstrators, even if they are forced to do so. But this is important. The order to open fire on civilians is forbidden in France. Of course, it's illegal, completely illegal. The soldiers have the duty to refuse such an order if they receive one, because it's illegal. The only time the soldiers can open fire inside our soil, basically on our soil, is to take down terrorists. And as I said, the demonstrators are not terrorists. But imagine if a group of very angry people with potentially weapons, or not even, they bypass a police cordon for whatever reason, because our ministers are just incompetent assholes at this point. Imagine if they bypass a cordon and they get close to the military. Imagine if there's a group of 50, 100, 200, 300 very violent people and they want to physically fight with the military. What happens? Do they flee? Do they open fire? What happens if they open fire? Just imagine if there's casualties. Can you even imagine this? This is France we're talking about, for Christ's sake. It's not like a third world country, and even if it was, it would be such a decision would be unanimously condemned by everyone, and yet it's happening in France in total silence. Well, of course, the country has been condemned by various institutions, the UN to name one. It's been condemned by the European Parliament, condemned by the European Council, by Amnesty International, and the League of Human Rights. That's 5 of these who have been condemned in France. But in any other country, we would say this is fascism. This is just despotic behavior. This is just totalitarian behavior. But here in France, it's normal. And the worst thing is that The only people who have been condemning the government, the only political figures who have been doing this are from the far left and the far right. These people, they've been described to us as worse than the fucking devil for 50 fucking years. And yet they're not the ones sending the fucking army against the people, okay? I want to make this very clear. The real Democrats and the real Republicans right now are the fucking extreme parties. Can you believe this? Because the ones that are actually in favor for such a thing, for the army, are so-called centrists, so-called leftists, so-called progressives, so-called conservatives, so-called liberals. These are the people. And the government have been saying with little to no fucking ambiguity that they're looking for blood, okay? They're saying that they're going to be like serious injuries, there might very well be fatalities, which is what the army said this morning as well. They're very worried, actually, that there's going to be fatalities, casualties, whatever you want to call it. It's fucking insane. I have never seen this in my entire life. I was sleeping. I was lethargic. Okay, I was in a coma politically, and I think everyone here was in a coma politically for many, many years. We've read in our textbooks what fascism is, how these regimes come basically. This is what's happening in fucking France, and nobody bats an eye. What the fuck? Our journalists. I want to say that the media in France, especially the written media, the written press, is owned at 90% by 9 fucking billionaires. So the media is therefore the power, basically, of fucking power. The only kind of power that we have in France today, we have only two. We have the fucking Senate and their independent media. They're the only two ones that are acting as counterpowers, because the media is bought. So they're all in the power of Macron. They're all fucking bootlickers. I have absolutely no fucking respect for any of them. They've been telling us lies for 50 fucking years. And again, I want to make this super clear. Macron has no militant support in France. The only people who support him are some of the elderly, the reactionary elderly, who do think they're somewhat progressives, but they're not. We have some intellectuals who have been comatose as well, and they're so fucking senile right now that every word they say is meaningless. Basically, you can just disregard it. You have media, you have the oligarchs who are controlling the country. I mean, imagine for a second, we are a country that prides itself on its public services, and we are selling the country bit by bit to private investors, to these 9 billionaires, so they can just fucking share it. And they're like, oh yeah, but you don't want to tax them because otherwise they don't make jobs and they don't invest. They don't invest even if you remove the fucking tax. This is a myth. They're not going to invest. They're going to spend their money elsewhere. They're going to speculate. Don't be a fucking idiot. We just sold. Well, it's not acted yet because the Senate was also against it, but the Parliament, which is like 77% in the power's pocket, so basically it's useless. The Parliament has voted at 6 in the fucking morning after the last demonstrations, the privatization of the Paris Airport, of the National Lottery, of electricity and gas company, and some of bullshit like this, and they fucking won. And if this goes through the Senate, they won. They're selling what's ours, and the worst of all is these things were making money for us. This is money that we could invest in public services, in infrastructure. No, they're not ours anymore. And this is why people revolt. The people in the streets, they're not fucking anti-Semites, they're not homophobes, they're not whatever people tell them they are. They're true fucking Democrats, they're true fucking Republicans. I want to make this very clear. okay? There are people, most of them are poor as fuck. I have a good situation. I can whine too much, but these are people. Their fucking fridge is empty by the 15th of the month. They don't have enough money to rent a fucking house. They're working their ass off more than the 35 hours that is the norm here in France by law, basically. And they are forced to sleep in the fucking car. What the fuck? And this is the middle class I'm talking about, even. The middle class. Middle class gets taxed like crazy, and the rich don't pay a fucking dime. What the hell? So yeah, I'm very afraid of what's happening this Saturday, but I'm gonna be in the streets because I've chosen my camp, and I'm definitely in the camp that wants to overthrow this power. I have had enough of these people. It's time to just change it. Tabula rasa. Just overthrow it. Put these people in jail. Our interior minister must be sent to fucking jail. And yeah, we'll see. Hopefully this doesn't end in a bloodshed. Hopefully the army just throw their weapons away, just walk away, disobey, maybe even make a coup, I don't know. But again, I don't want to fight the army. I have too much respect for them. It saddens me to see them used this way as a fucking shield to illegitimate little assholes. Because, I'm sorry, you're not a legitimate power if you use the army against your people. There's no justification for that. You don't have to be an extremist to realize that there is no justification for this.